Sweet. It's been a while. God, is this the first official video of 2025? I think so. Did the one where I went home. I did the annual recap video. I think this is the first vlog of 2025. Did I say 2024 before? I took some time off from a lot, and I'll dive into it. And I wanted to make this first video just to kind of catch everybody up around what's been going on. If you were to ask me like a year ago, you know, I was on a good spree of making videos every week, and midway through 2024, I really found myself in a place where I was just completely burnt out. I was burnt out from running, from working, and at the end of the last year, I just got to a place where I was cashed. I was done. I was done with everything. So I took January and February really like some time to be with my family, spend some more time with Odessa, and really just reset my mental and think about like, what do I actually want to do? And so I made a couple of changes, some really big changes that I didn't think I was gonna do, but I ended up doing just because I knew in my heart and in my head that it was the right decision to make. And so I wanted to use today's video to really just catch people up around what's been going on. And I wanted to start off with just like a quick update, and probably like the biggest update of them all, which is I left my corporate gig. And that was something that has been my safety net for the last 14 years. It's allowed me to live the life that I show on YouTube, social media, I get to experience, and I left it. It was something that I knew had served its time, and it was something that I knew that I was ready to move on from. There were moments where I was like waking up at like 3 a.m. on a Sunday just with anxiety, thinking about like projects I was involved with. And it's nothing against the work. It was nothing against the work at all, because I've learned so much in the 14 years, and it's allowed me to not just live the life that I want to live, be able to move to Denver, do the races, all these things, but it also taught me a lot about like processes, frameworks, strategy, think about like how do these big corporations work. And I got to a point where I'm like, how do I do this in my own life? Like, how do I take my passion and the things that I love doing and take what I've learned over the last 14 years at the highest level and apply it to something that I truly care about? And that's kind of where I'm at today. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing next. I have a sense of what the next chapter is going to look like. I know for sure it'll be in the health and wellness space. It's close to a month since I left the corporate life. And I really just spent the first couple weeks just trying to get back on schedule mentally and spiritually and emotionally. Like the physical stuff like happens, like I go through the day, I do my running, I lift. I definitely have not been connected with my body in, I would say, 6 months, and I could tell. And just as a couple of weeks ago, I finally like hit that run where like I felt it. And I know when I'm on and I know when I'm not. And I know that I haven't been on in a really long time. And it was really messing with me. You know, I cut off the funds, the corporate life. I have these other ventures that I'm in my entrepreneurial life. And I just kind of think to myself, like, this is probably the best time for me to do this. You know, I don't have debt. I don't have kids that I have to worry about. You know, we've been smart with our decisions to not put ourselves in a position where it's like, if we're going to take a risk, right now is that time, because maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you know, I'll be in a relationship or I'll have kids, whatever it may be. Like, I don't know what the future entails, but what I do know is right now is a time where I can take risk. And so what really started a lot of this was I watched this video by a YouTuber called Patrick Gavia that I really like. He did this video of the guy who's competing against the UFC. He's building out his own version, but in Asia, called like One Championship. He was talking about how he made it in finance, but was super unhappy. You know, he's making all this money, came from nothing, super poor, raised by his mother, and he was just at a point where he's like, I'm not living my Ikigai. And Ikigai is this Japanese proverb around living your life and following your passion and finding your passion and using that as a way to supplement and pay for your life. And so when I heard about that, I was like, you know, I'm really interested. So I got the book, I read it in January, and I just kept thinking to myself, like, what do I actually want to do? And I started to think back, like, all the way when I was 19, when I first did drugs for the first time, and that's obviously something we've talked about in the past. And I just like think about like what's changed since 19 to 36, which is what I am today. And it's like I went from like alcoholic, drug user to then sober, then to athlete, and then you're in Colorado, and then now you're involved in these different projects. And it's like, but what do you actually want to do? And in the book Ikigai, I actually have it right here. It asks you 4 questions, and I'll try to zoom it in to see if we can get it focused on the camera. But it essentially asks you, like, what do you love, what the world needs, what you are good at, and what you can be paid for. And I just started to think a lot about like those things. And I've put myself in a conference room in early January and just like wrote down the 4 questions. And I also started to like put down just like a bulleted list of the things, like answering the questions. And I know that for sure, like I love creating content. I love sharing my experiences, whether it's like, what was it like going sober? What was it like doing this race? What was it like training for something like this? What's your experience with this health and wellness product? But and I love testing out new things in health and wellness because it's definitely been the lifesaver for me getting into health and wellness because of where I came from. And so for me, I kind of think about like, I get fulfillment by helping others with education in the health and wellness space, because there's like all this noise around like do this program or try this supplement or wear these clothes, and so I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, you know, I could probably start my own marketing agency where like I'm not only educating the audience around like what's real versus not, but I can work with vetted health and wellness brands to get in front of their audience to showcase their value proposition and really talk about it, break it down into a place where it's easy to understand and understand if it's right for the person. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. I feel like I'm headed in that direction in some sort of fashion, but I'm not sure yet. One thing for sure is like, I don't want to rush into anything. This is the first time that I've ever taken a break from work since I've been 15 years old. And so I definitely want to give myself the time that I need to fully reset, the same way that like when it comes to training for big races, you know, you do need to give yourself that break. The CNS does take time to reset. And for me, I never thought that I would take a sabbatical. It's definitely something where I just knew it needed to happen. And so I'm just giving myself the time and the space to recognize when I am ready to jump back in. So that's what I'm thinking the future has in store from a career standpoint. Since taking the break, I can definitely tell that I can feel my focus coming back. Like I said earlier, like a couple weeks ago, I had my first really good run for the first time in months. You know, I recognized I was really off in November, where I raced in Chicago, and I was so off. I didn't perform terribly, but I definitely wasn't connected with my body. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't talking to my friends before or after, and like I wasn't myself. Like, and I knew it. I absolutely knew that I wasn't myself. And like just up until the last couple of weeks, like I definitely have started to feel like my energy, like that spirit coming back where like I hype people up and like I can actually be there for people. And so like right now, like, okay, so what are you doing now? You know, I've had this whiteboard where I've started to jot down some ideas of like, what do I actually want to do? And I'm going to focus on like just the controllables, right? There's a lot of things that I don't have control over, which I'm totally fine with. But number one is making content consistently. I know this was something that I talked about before, and I didn't recognize at the time that I had so much on my plate, and I was just like trying to cram in all this information. And so for me, making content, you know, if I think that this marketing agency is the future, let's start with making content. If it feels right and like we're doing good and like we're staying consistent, maybe that is the path, right? But we're not going to know unless we start to get reps in. And then you guys know how I am. I'm all about the volume, all about the reps. The second thing that I'm going to get focused on is I looked into some certification programs around digital marketing and e-commerce. And it really reminded me of back in 2018 when I got certified first as a group fitness instructor. I posted this on my Instagram where on January 1st, 2018, it was the day after a silent meditation retreat. And I woke up on January 1st, 2018. I wasn't a fitness guy at the time or a trainer or anything. Like that was not who Omar was. And I just remember waking up at like 5 a.m. that beginning of the year and thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna go work out, because I didn't go out for New Year's. I worked out and I just remember the feeling that I had of like, God, like this feels so good. Like I like the way that this makes me feel. And that was the day that I decided, I was like, I really want to get into fitness. And then in March 2018, I remember that's the month that I signed up to get certified through ACE. And then the next 6 months, all I did was study, preparing for the certification. Got hired right after. The next year I got the personal training certification. And then COVID hit in 2020. So then I decided getting into running more. But then I also picked up a camera and heard about this thing called YouTube, started making YouTube videos. That's how that all began, because of the circumstances. Like I wasn't doing anything with video prior to COVID. And I kind of look back at those things. I'm like, oh, like all these things were supposed to happen. And I've always wanted to know like the foundational elements of how do people structure their programming. That was like a big reason why like I wanted to get certified, because I wanted to do my own programming. But I also wanted to like do it for myself and then start to like share it with others. Hence what we're doing here. And so like where I'm at today in 2025, I really want to figure out like, how do I make it in the creator economy? What is digital marketing? Like I want to understand the foundational elements of digital marketing and e-commerce. So I did all this searching online of like different courses, and then one that just continued to come up everywhere was Google's program. They host it through the platform Coursera. It's 6 months long. I'm about a month into the program. I think like I'm a couple days ahead of schedule. But that program is a professional certification for digital marketing and e-commerce. So people will take that to get a job the same way that people will get certified through ACE or NASM to get a job as a trainer. And the way I look at it is like, if a marketing agency is what my future entails, I want to at least have the paperwork behind me to support it. I think about it the same way I thought about college. Like full transparency, I didn't care about college, but I knew I needed it. I knew I needed the paperwork to get the job. And I thought about that with the training thing. I knew I needed the certifications to get the job and start training people legally. And for me with this marketing agency, like I want to make sure that I do have the paperwork that shows like, hey, I put in the work. And I know it's not necessarily needed, but for me, it's definitely something that I look back of like, I've done this before in different ways and look how they turned out. And so the second thing I'm focusing on is the Google program for digital marketing and e-commerce. And I'm hoping to finish within 4 months. This way I don't have to study throughout the summer, but I want to make sure I get that done and give it attention so then I can apply everything I learn into creating content, pushing it out, being able to review data, what works, what doesn't, but then also help the people that like are also trying to get into the digital marketing world, like social media and stuff like that. There are some races coming up, but I'll talk about that in a future video. I really just wanted to share a quick update around what's going on in my life, why I stopped recording videos. I am making a full commitment to myself, my spirit, and my future self around like, this is what you've been doing on the side while working a full-time job, and something told you that having the corporate life has served you really well, but maybe it's time to go on bet on yourself and really get uncomfortable like you have with all this racing and see if you can do it. Like I've talked the talk about it for a very long time, and my gut just tells me that it's time to officially bet on myself. So thank you so much for being supportive of me and the channel. Made it to the end of the video. I know it's a little bit long and just a update on me. I don't know how much this serves you, and like I always think about how do I serve my audience, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to be getting back to just focusing on studying, getting the curriculum under my belt, making content consistently. I have a sense of where I'm headed within health and wellness, so I can be full-time in that industry as a leader. And if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to drop me a line or hit me up on Instagram with a DM or leave a comment below. But we will catch you in next week's video.